Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 361. Today is Saturday, March 20th, 2021, and I'm glad you could join me today. I am drinking tea and adjusting to daylight savings time, and recording much later than usual, but I have put together a special lighting optimization plan in which I have placed a shade on the window. And hopefully what this means for us today is that we get the glory of diffuse light. We shall see. I'm hopeful. And I do have to laugh a little bit because whatever, you have all these intentions and then you don't even get to them, and so that's sort of where I'm at today, is being like, what would it be? Is this the beginning of the row or the end of the row? Oh, this is the beginning. So, what is it? I am, technically speaking, only working on one project right now. And then also, sort of in the process of puzzling over whether or not I did a good job knitting in the dark, for which I probably see, there's just like something funky going on here, so I probably need to actually write back what little progress I've made on this row and then do like a good daylight visual check of what in the world's happening so I can make sure I'm starting off on good fitting on this guy, because it seems a little weird right now. That is not what I want. So I am working on a brioche shawl from Handspun that has some of the elements of Sizzle Pop in it, but what it being is at least a little bit distinct from it, because what it be, I've just sort of gone freestyle at this point. So quite a lot of knitting progress has been made. When I last weighed it, I was at 57 grams remaining of the purple color. I have about 5 grams remaining of the green color, but I have done like a few rows since I last weighed. But this is how the shawl is coming together so far. So this here is the center spine, and then I have these sort of like, what would it be, almost like rosebud-like motifs that are happening in the purple section. And then some of these rosebud motifs are growing out of vines, and some of them are just evenly spaced throughout. So this is a pretty large blanket that I'm making. And then last night I ended up taking my yarn, because the cake was getting pretty empty. I ended up just winding it into a ball. So I still have a pretty decent amount of yarn left. I'll probably be able to finish the sort of half repeat that I have going on here. So I'll be able to get one full, or no, probably 2 full buds in this particular guy. And I'm just thinking it up as I go. I was contemplating if I wanted to change the pattern yet again, MC Escher style, but I think this will be fine. And then this is what it looks like on the wrong side. So has some pretty distinctive things there, or pretty distinctive pattern. I think it definitely flows very nice on the other side as well. So you still get sort of that leaf and flower motif going on, which is cool. So this is I started off with 4 ounces of Chamomile Connection Polworth and 8 ounces of Two Guys Yarn Company. Would it be, they had a roving that was, was like 55% Romney, 20% Southdown, and then nylon and banana for whatever remaining percentages are left. I ended up spinning that guy last year, and I blended 4 ounces of it on my drum carder to make a smooth bat, and then I spun the roving, as it came for the first 4 ounces, applied them together, and so I have like a really pretty tonal yarn going on, which is cool. The Chamomile Connection is like way throwback. It's a skein from 2015 that I apparently spun on my spindle and applied on my reel. So, what would it be? Not too crazy there. The Two Guys is mostly Romney, and what would it be? It's not as buttery and lovely as the Polworth is, but I'm hoping that, what would it be if it's the case where it doesn't feel as good on the neck, having the Polworth side on the neck should be fine. So that is going to be like a pretty good sized schlinket when it's done. So yeah, I may just have to sort of go through each stitch in this row and figure out what's going on. And so I have this on a long enough cable where I could actually sort of demo how it ended up getting, how it could be worn. So shouldn't be too crazy. So there is that. Should be like a nice shawl. And then I just have like a little ball left that I'll probably incorporate once I'm getting closer to the end, just to bring a little bit of that grain back in again. Not a lot of grain, just a little bit. So it's coming together nicely. I guess I can wear it this way too. I think both ways end up looking really cute. This way is a little bit more subtle. Would it be the transition between the green and purple is a little bit, whatever. It's a little bit smoother looking because the MC lines are, would it be, it's more like the background is changing behind it. So that is the story there. It is, like I was knitting a lot on it just so that I could sort of get to the full, oops, that's a little bit sticky, sort of get to like the full extent of the pattern. And at this point, like the rows are pretty long. So what I am like, yeah, I'm pretty far into the shawl at this point. So last I weighed, it was roughly 2 ounces remaining. Like that's like 10 ounces of shawl. So as you do. But what I ended up also doing this week was swatching for a project. And I was hoping that I could get to the point where I could actually show like a proper cast on sweater. But I ended up running into some technical difficulties last night, so I don't think I have anything cast on at all right now. If I do, it's not a lot. So I am going to be knitting the Hinterland, which is a Jen Steingass pattern. And oh, you know how fancy I am? I have a couple of stitches cast on right now. I have 5 stitches cast on right now. So fancy. And I may end up switching things up anyways. But I did have a swatch. I ripped the swatch out, as you can see by my wrapped swath of yarn. And it was the case where I was able to get differentiation between my needle types with the dry swatch. So it's like really crazy making. info pattern calls for a US 5, swatched with the US 5, got about 5 stitches per inch. Was like, okay, that isn't small enough, I'm going to swatch with the 4. So then I do like a little garter band to separate, start on the 4. Knit like, whatever, at least like an inch or so of the 4. Measure that guy, 4.5 stitches per inch. My gauge loosened up with the smaller needle. Oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay. Knit 3 rows of garter to separate, and then I switched to my US 3s. US 3s were significantly closer, so that one came in more like 5.25. I was like, if it's a little looser, I can knit a smaller size. Then, like, proceed to also work like the yoke chart, see if I like how everything's coming together. For some reason, my nest yarn, what would it be? It's just like really crazy to pull gauge off of. I don't even know. Knit on that for a while, measure in a couple places, decide, well, this doesn't seem to be quite right either. What's going to happen if I decide to knit with US 2s? Or actually, no, I didn't switch to the 2s. I did the US 2.5, so I switched to a 3mm needle, swatched for that for a while, and it was like, okay, good. I got 5.5 stitches per inch. This is the pattern gauge. Bound off, put in the sink. I also measured row gauge just so I could get a sense of that as well. Definitely the case where the 3mm needle resulted in like tighter row gauge than the pattern called for. I didn't really hit row gauge at any point. Get that in the sink. Leave that in for at least an hour because I was in the midst of knit. I squish the water out, dry it off with a bath towel, and then I lay it on my blanket mats to dry. Come back the next day. Measure gauge with my hand bud gauge tool. Not too crazy. Every single section had 5.5 stitches per inch. Maybe 5.25 on that weird US 4 section. Maybe. So it was like, oh my gosh, what in the world is going on? So apparently this yarn is perfectly happy being 5.5 stitches per inch. It's just has some sort of creepy standard gauge of gauging. And it's also worth noting, when I was working garter, I was just working back and forth. When I was working in stockinette, I was doing the long float method, so it'd be the case where I'd knit across, pull a long float, and then knit across from the beginning again, in order to best emulate my gauge, because I know that my purling is way looser than my knitting. So there's that. But I'm wondering what exactly I should do at this point. And what would it be? So Hinterland is a Genstein Gust pattern. It has like a pine tree motif on it. I think that it's really pretty. It was intended for like a Madtosh single and a spin cycle dyed in the wool yarn. So what I have going on is a Three Waters Farm 3-ply and fin, and then I have my Nest Fiber Studio mixed fibers, which is the stand-in for the spin cycle. So this guy has plies that are different colors. In this case, this is, I believe, a 6-ply. So it is, would it be a 3-ply cable plied back on itself again. So this is going to result in this little color change and sort of look a bit sunsetty, and then this is going to end up looking a little bit more dusky in the end. So not where would it be? Should be interesting. Maybe doesn't quite fit the explicit like pine tree thing that the pattern was intending, but I think I'm just gonna go with it and call it good. So I am currently casting on with the 3mm needles. I don't know if I'm going to have to do something else in order to make this work, but it's the case where the neckband starts with everything being approximately the same size. The spread across the pattern, or would it be? It is assuming that everyone's head is about the same size. As you do. I don't know, it seems pretty sensible to me. But what this means for this purpose is it was like, am I actually capable of casting on with enough space in between the stitches in order to get whatever, however many stitches over my head. And it isn't like I can switch to like a different size that has significantly more if it's not really working out for me. So there is that problem. So I think right now is the case of trying to figure out what cast on I would really like to have in order to make that happen. And then I will probably be going at least a little bit off pattern because I will end up doing a longer ribbing and making a folded neckband because I really do like a folded neckband. I think it would be. I just really like a folded neckband, so I'll add it into whatever sweater I want whenever I want to. This pattern has options for a rolled neckband or a ribbed neckband, but the ribbing is so short that would it be? It's not going to end up being like a reasonable approximation here. So, oh well. And then I do have plenty of my CC yarn, but I'm not sure what would it be. I don't think I'm going to do like contrasting cuffs with this. I may bind off in that yarn. Possibly, I don't know. The time for choosing that choice is a while from now. But the Hinterland pattern has like the yoke, and then it has like a color with detail on the sleeve, so and should result in a very lovely sweater. The blue yarn, I believe, or would it be? Both of these yarns are yarns that I spun for Tour de Fleece last year with the intention of making this pattern. So in that regard, we're doing pretty good for matching up plans and actual knitting. But what would it be? So I'm going to end up counting this as a part of the Fluff the Stuff 2021 challenge. That's why I've been on a using handspun spree lately. Is that everything that I finish in handspun ends up counting for that. Not sure whether or not I'm sufficiently participating in the thread, but whatever. And one trick that I'm doing in order to keep this cast on actually nice and loose is making sure that I'm doing a good job of spreading my stitches out. So I'm still getting like a nice cast on edge, but would it be, that should make it so that it is possible to get over my head at the right time. And then I may end up then switching to a smaller needle to actually work the ribbing itself. So my US 1.5 is hanging out in my nest, and then my US 2 is also hanging out in my nest right now. But my cast on was just turning out way too tight on both of them, so that's why you're nearby. Ready to go if I feel like using them. So that is the story there. I think it's looking pretty positive for actually getting enough stitches on here where I can actually get it around my head. Now that you can really tell with this needle, if that's in the zone of plausibility, it should be scrunched up on this needle. But yeah, no, and all I needed was an even number in order to work 1 by 1 ribs, so that's good. And I definitely don't have enough stitches on the needle yet. So I'm just creeped out by the fact that my gauge ended up working out the same for all of the needles I tried. Like, I definitely liked the fabric the best on the smallest one. But it does make me a little bit nervous about like making sure I'm selecting the right size and getting the right amount of ease and all of that good stuff. And then trying to figure out, would it be like sometimes the interpretation of if I'm measuring here or measuring here, to figure out what that yoke size is. I'm trying to experiment with making looser yoke sweaters, so my Isbray was, at least I attempted to try to make a looser sweater with that one. So I'm willing to try to see about this one as well. I will still be in like the zone of a reasonable amount of ease, I think, with the size I have selected right now. And I will have plenty of yarn, because this ended up being like 1,600 yards and 12 ounces. And then I have 6 ounces of my contrast color, so no fear there. What would it be? And then it will be the case where I'm betting the next sweater I'll end up casting on will end up being the Weekender, just because it intersects the knit along. I think there is a knit love wool knit along going on right now, and so knit love wool is the whatever the design name for Jen Steincast, so shouldn't be too crazy. Yeah. So hopefully we can get everything on good footing, but right now all my projects are in a slightly awkward state. One of them mostly just because I was knitting while it was dark. Watching Stranger Things in the darkness. It's finally picked up. The first 2 episodes are very slow. People die, but it's still slow. As you do. So, my spinning content for the week is going to be like a little bit more contained. Would it be? My wheel is empty right now, so there is nothing on this. I haven't even swapped out the wood bobbin yet, but I think that's just because I would just like to get the Brioche Shawl done and out of whatever. It was like on the list of would it be gift knits and hand spun and calling it good. but I did end up making some progress on preparing the next fiber to spin. So this guy here are the warm colors of my fake Romney braid combined with the Florida cracker. And then this guy here are cool colors of my fake Romney braid that I also combined with the American cracker. And I basically did a 4-layer bat. So I put down a layer of my, Florida cracker. I put down a layer of my lighter of my warmer cool colors, another layer of Florida cracker, and then a layer of the darker of my colors in order to create these as bats. And then I pulled it off of my drum carder with a diz. So the diz that comes with the drum carder is intended for 1-ounce bats. The first one that I ended up making, I made 2 ounces and was a bear getting it off. If you want to watch the hilariousness, I do have a live from last week. Unfortunately, the sound is really, really quiet, which is unfortunate. I'm not quite sure how to fix that for next time. I don't know if it was a case where my computer was picking up or my webcam was. We shall see. But you can watch the hilariousness. And that was the case where I did some troubleshooting. I'm like, you know what? I can just take all my fiber, split it in half again, make 1-ounce bats, and those came off very beautifully. So I don't know if this one was one that I made intentionally as that, or if this was one that I ended up splitting my first one in half and then attenuating it with the diz. But we shall see. Whatever. And then, what if it was the case from like, should I get the diz pack from Clemis & Clemis, which has basically coded whatever orifice sizes for the diz and sort of what weight of fiber on drum carder is good for. And so basically we just sat down and did like an area scaling. So it was the case where it was like 3/16 of an inch hole with a chamfer, and it was the case where it's like, okay, if 3/16 corresponds to 1 ounce, what is the area scaling of holes from there? And so we basically put together a little table in Excel and then made a diz on the 3D printer. And instead of having chamfer, this guy has like a fillet. So you want to have like a curved surface to help sort of funnel the fiber into the hole. And so big hole is for, or this big guy is for 3, this guy is for 2, and I believe this guy's for 1, and then we have things scaling down all the way to 1/3. So I think it's the case where, what would it be? This is like 1/3, 1/2, somewhere in between, and 1's also in there. So whatever. I need to like sit down and probably with like a like one of like the glitter Sharpies, just write down what size it's intended for. And I can still use my little orifice hook that came with my headstrings diz. Call it good. And then I have my Anchorworks. I have my Anchorworks orifice hook as well. So I haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but I'm very interested to try. It's just, I don't know what I'm doing exactly, if I'm going to do that with the next bats I'm planning on making, or what. So, should be fun, should be easy, and we'll see if it ends up working better. Would be, because there's just a case where there's only so much stuff that you can cram on the drum carder in the first place, but yeah, don't entirely understand, but I'm okay with learning more. So I am planning on beginning to spin this fun. Basically, I'll fill a bobbin with this, I'll fill a bobbin with that. I'll do a little bit of sampling to figure out if I want it applied on itself or applied or whatever. Keep the warm tones and cool tones separate or combine them into one big 8-ounce mega skein. Not sure. Based on how the fiber's been sort of built, it's going to result in like a marled yarn and sort of having like shades of all of them throughout. So that's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, and then I ended up posting in the spin pin thread about basically the fiber transformation that I ended up doing because it'll look really different than what I started out with. And then would it be, because I think, or what was it, I believe Beth ended up asking, like, am I planning on declaring another bin? No. I am not planning on declaring another bin. I am perfectly fine with working through all of my spinning intentions and projects for the year and calling it good. Would it be? So the next few projects that I'm doing will be the last of the sample fiber that I have, and it almost doesn't really count as sample fiber because, like, it's 4 ounces. So in some ways I'm extending it a little bit because I'm taking some fiber where I don't have specific plans and incorporating it into my bin in order to make yarn possible for a bigger project. So that's cool in my mind. Next up will be my Leicester long wool and my Dorset horn. So I'll be combining those together somehow. I haven't decided how exactly, but I will. Should be fun. Would it be? So that'll end up making something that's more like blues and grays. And then probably after that will be my Carl the Fog project. So we are almost into fog season again, so that's going to be very exciting. Basically just boils down to winter is over, and so the inland actually gets hot now. It sucks all the cool ocean air over my house and the rest of San Francisco. And that project will be a really good candidate for fluffless stuff as well, because in this case I'm blending fiber with the intention of spinning a specific yarn. And then I'll probably have to do a little bit of looking stuff up in order to make sure I actually hit the weight of yarn I want as well. Yeah, I don't know if that's a worsted weight one or not. Yeah, and then it'll just be a question of what project I want to do when I finish off my brioche blanket, which is almost done. Went really fast. So much easier to knit with the worsted and DK hand spun. I'm gonna run out of it soon. Whatever, it'll just be super fine lace projects for a while. So I don't know if that's going to be a sign to work on a brioche blanket for myself, or if that's going to end up being something different. We shall see. What it be? A fingering weight sweater is going to be a more significant endeavor, so there's that. Oh, not too crazy. So there has been spinning content. There's been using the spinning, which is very exciting. As you do. But, yeah, not actually any real spinning this week, so. Oh, well. So, I think, or what would it be? And then the other question I ended up getting this week was from Jose about, like, the Color Street yarn that I ended up actually So what has happened was, I ended up trading yarn with my friend Ela. So she ended up getting a skein of Thriller, and I ended up getting a skein of Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock in the Summer Dusk colorway. So this is a 3-ply 80/20 in like whatever sunset colors, which was very cool. And then here are the nails. So they're like sort of like stickers, basically. So there's like, they're in this package. Once I open this package, then the nail polish will begin to dry out. And what you end up doing is using a little alcohol wipe on your nails to make everything clean. You separate the little stickers. You peel off both sides. You stick it onto your nail. You sort of trim off with a little file, like the excess polish. And then you have like nail polish on your nails. But the application is more like a sticker instead of like, would it be actually like liquid that you end up letting dry. So this was a little Instagram giveaway that I ended up winning. I ended up getting this from Knitterly Book Lady, whose name is Jen. So she is a knitter in my Berkeley knitting group. So what would it be? I haven't seen her forever though. So hopefully I'll end up seeing her at least show up on Zoom sometime soon. So what would it be? And she is like a color street dealer. There are a lot of, I think, people in the knitting community who do that. So what would it be? I tend to stay away from like the multi-level marketing stuff personally, but what would it be? I figured a giveaway with what would it be? Yarn and nail polish was a-okay to join in. I am terrible with nail polish and will oftentimes end up peeling it off just because I'm like such a fidgety person. So it'll be interesting to see if it works for my lifestyle or if it just doesn't work at all. And I'm planning on starting with my toes because I do like a pedicure more than a manicure because my fingers are near my hands. Works better for my lifestyle. So I was thinking about putting it on before this, but there's other stuff that I need to accomplish today too. So there's that. It appears that my lighting scheme did end up working today. So woo shades, really glad that ended up working. Because I would be very ghostly. Very ghostly had I not blocked the sun. This is the only problem with being in whatever the room with the west facing window. But I think that ended up working out really well. So happy about that. So I'll have to see if I need to keep doing this in the future of using a shade and when you get the diffuse light, but I think it resulted in all of the colors looking really good. Like, looks really good. That looks pretty true. Not that purple really matters, I know. It's like, how close can I get the purple to you guys so you can actually see what's going on? Yeah, that looks pretty true. That looks pretty good. So, I probably just need more diffuse light in my life. So, alright, I think that's everything this week. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week. And I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So, take care, guys. Bye-bye.